because there's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of people that are just kind of leaving medicine right now just because they do all this training. And that's where there's also a lot of depression, anxiety, suicidality, these kind of things in healthcare, because you say, I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. And you go through all this training, and some of the training kind of sucks, but there's this light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to help people. And then you get to the end of the tunnel, and then they're like, well, okay, we're going to plug you into this system. And it's like, well,
and then there's some administrator there.
Yeah. And then you're like, this isn't too bright at the end of this tunnel right here. And then, it's like you keep kind of putting your head down and barreling forward and hoping that you're going to be where that light was supposed to be. And the system is just not set up to do that. It's just becoming darker and darker to that individual. And at the same time, they feel indebted to, well, I, did all this training, so I have to kind of do this. I'm in all this medical debt, so I have to pay this off.
What the hell's going on out here?
All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Fueled by Spite. As always, I'm your host, Dr. James Taylor, and I have another doctor with me today, Dr. Clearfield. Dr. Clearfield, Daniel, do you prefer one or the other?
Dr. C, Dr. Dan. Okay. You call me whatever you'd like to. So.
Fair enough. So I told him before this hand here, he's the first guy that ever printed off his bio, because I want to make sure I don't miss nothing. He was definitely one of the more accomplished people I've had sitting next to me. So we'll go over this, and then you could tell me kind of how he made it through here. So we got board certified physician in primary care sports medicine, as well as family medicine and osteopathic manipulative medicine. Second generation doctor of osteopathic medicine. Grew up in Arlington, Texas. Local man. I didn't know that before reaching out to you. Graduated from James Martin High School. Was also an all-state wrestler. Captain of the wrestling team. Attended University of Texas at Austin, earning a bachelor in science and kinesiology. Graduating cum laude with honors. Then attended the University of North Texas Health Science Center, where he earned his DO from the Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine, as well as his Master's of Science, I'm getting out of breath here, in Clinical Research and Education from the Graduate School of Biomedical Science. Completed osteopathic family medicine residency at Doctors Hospital in Columbus, Ohio, where he served as chief resident, and completed his pre-doctoral fellowship in osteopathic manipulative medicine and primary care sports medicine fellowship at the Overlook Hospital in Summit, New Jersey. Damn.
Went all over, yes.
Apparently. Yeah. So in reading all of this, and I get this from time to time, and haven't completed nearly as much schooling and education as you have. How old are you?
I am 45.
How often do you get mistaken for younger before people see how much you've done? Or is it the other way?
No. I would say I get mistaken for, notably because I lift, I like to work out and everything like that. And so, I always get those 24-year-olds at the gym, and they think I'm, like maybe 30 or something like that. And then they're like, wait, you're how old? And you have an 18-year-old. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I get mistaken for younger, more because of my juvenile personality, as opposed to my devilish good looks. So congrats. So origin story. Why are you an osteopath? Why are you in private practice? Who are you? Gotcha. Aside from all this?
Gotcha. Origin story is always fun. So, so my father's a DO also.
Okay.
And I, at the same time, I wouldn't say that he pushed me into medicine or pushed me into osteopathic medicine. My parents pushed me to my potential. They wanted to make sure that they saw that I was a smart kid. They wanted to make sure that I did something that was going to live up to my potential. And so when I went to college, and I was just kind of, I started out, what's funny is my dad was busy. My dad, he was a career academic physician. Last 15 years of his career, he was a dean of an osteopathic school over in California. And so he was always a very busy person, traveling around a lot. He was internal medicine, but if possible, he was a cholesterologist. So he was one of the big world-renowned people on cholesterol. Really? And so he lived a very busy life, traveled a lot. And I was just like, I just didn't want to do that. So kind of going into college, I just didn't want to be a doctor. And I started out in mechanical engineering just because that's what, I was good at math and science. I was a total math and science nerd. But after about a year of that, I was just like, I remember I was in engineering physics lab, and I saw my peers, and I was like, I don't want these to be my peers. No offense to mechanical engineers, but just, that was not my group. That was not my home. And so I really had to start venturing out and looking for other things. And I was a wrestler, and I was already started personally training when I was in high school. And I stumbled upon kinesiology as a major, and I saw like the exercise physiology and the anatomy and the biomechanics and all that. And I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to be a kinesiology major. And then my parents are like, okay, well, like, what are you going to do with this? And most people, it was in the College of Education at the University of Texas. So most people went into an educational path. They became a teacher, a coach, something like that, personal trainer. And I was already a certified personal trainer. So I was like, so what's like one of the most challenging or the most challenging route that you can take with this? And that's where I looked at, possibly a PhD in like exercise physiology or biomechanics, or take the medicine route. And so I was able to, my father was able to set me up with some externships, and I was able to see like an orthopedic surgeon and a physiatrist and a primary care sports medicine physician. And it was when I shadowed them that the things clicked and light bulbs went on. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So coming into medical school, I already had my idea that this is what I wanted to do. But at the same time, when you start medical school,
this being DO, or just medicine.
Yeah. Well, no, I saw. So, it's like my dad, what's funny is my dad, and no knock to his osteopathic medical college, but it's like the manipulation that they learned was not fantastic. It was, he said it was like in like a trailer out back or something back when he did it. And so, my mom never knew that manipulation wasn't a painful experience until I did it on her. And so, my dad's this great, osteopathic physician, but not an osteopathic manipulative medicine practitioner in that regard. So, no, the docs that I shadowed were all DOs. And then, the sports medicine doc that I shadowed did a lot of manipulation in his practice. And I was like, that makes sense. It's like, he's able to offer so much more to the athletes. Cause I had also shadowed an MD, sports medicine physician. I just didn't see that he was able to offer them as much. And so I applied in Texas. And so I applied to all the medical schools, and, there was just the one osteopathic medical school at the time, but TComp was my top choice, got in there. And rest is history with that. So, definitely came in with my ideals of doing sports medicine. But then it was more of like, okay, do you want to be an orthopedic surgeon? Do you want to be a physiatrist? Do you want to do family and then, sports medicine, or what path? And so I needed to kind of figure that out as I went through. But what I kind of envisioned when I first did my shadowing experiences in college, I actually ended up, that's what manifested. So
that's awesome. Actually, so you hit on a couple things too. Not only did I print this off, I also wrote down some other stuff. Again, certified in primary care sports medicine, also team physician for the San Antonio Brahmas. Are they still the Brahmas? Mm-hmm. Okay. Formerly XFL, now UFL, USA Wrestling, USA Judo, and on the USA Olympic Committee. Mm-hmm. So again, a smattering of other sports centered things. How did you end up with the Brahmas, with the XFL, and have you ever met The Rock?
So, as far as meeting The Rock, I got to what's up, to him. So at the opening game for the XFL, it was over at the Old Ranger Stadium, Choctaw Stadium, yes. And so he was there for that. I'm on the field. My kids I brought, and they were in the crowd. And my daughter's like texting me. She's like, "The Rock is right behind you. Turn around." And I saw him there, and I was like,
"You can't be looking at your phone while you're at work if the boss is behind you."
Yeah. Well, I have my Apple Watch. I was able to see that. So, but anyways, I just saw him, and it's like he was just shaking hands, kissing babies, doing all that kind of thing. And so I was able to, see him and just say hi, and just, quickly shake hands and everything like that. But so that was meeting The Rock. It wasn't I'm sure he remembers,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's a very memorable thing. Yeah. He remembers when he met Daniel Clearfield.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Well, why wouldn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, no, cool opportunity. And, it's like, but that's one of the things about sports medicine and working with athletes of all different levels is, sometimes you get starstruck by certain kind of individuals. Mm-hmm. Being a wrestler myself, I got most starstruck by working with some of the some of the coaches that I've worked with USA Wrestling, because guys that I used to have like posters on my wall, all of a sudden I'm like traveling to Paris with them, and working with them side by side for Team USA, and so that's where I was like most starstruck. So it's cool seeing it's like Heinz Ward was our coach, and so it was fun getting to know him a little bit better, and some of the other coaches that were, ex-pros. I'm working with like the USA Wrestling people. That was always like
Dan Gable.
I have not gotten
Really?
yeah. It's like, I mean, it hasn't traveled, maybe he just hasn't been at some of the tournaments that I've been at and everything like that. But I did get to take photos with Alexander Karelin over.
How do I know that name?
He is like one of the most accomplished wrestlers from Russia.
Oh, yes.
He was the Greco. Just,
Yep.
I mean, just gigantic. Even in his retirement, and he's just. I mean, I have a picture staying next to him, and I just look like it looks like The Rock and Kevin Hart.
That's
just like,
That's funny. Like I literally, neither here nor there. Wife and I just watched the roast of Tom Brady this weekend on Netflix, and it is unintentionally comical seeing Kevin Hart shake hands with all these NFL players, and it's just again unintentionally comical. But I can picture what you're saying there. So how'd you get into judo then? Is that just kind of parlayed the wrestling thing into it?
So, some of the involvement with the national governing bodies, like our Olympic governing bodies, some of it I really forced. Wrestling was my sport. That was my big sport that I wanted to really be involved with. So, I found mentors, and one of my mentors in the American Osteopathic Academy of Sports Medicine is a team physician for USA Wrestling, and he's about a decade older than me, and so he was able to kind of help steer me in some directions and put in some good words for me. When USA Wrestling had their it was their Greco and women's freestyle nationals and Olympic trials qualifier. That was in Arlington, Texas, in
sweet.
2011, I want to say. And I just called them up. I just said, "Hey, I'm a local sports medicine physician. Just got out of fellowship. I was a wrestler. I would love to come out and help if I can." And they said, "Oh, perfect. We had a doc that just had to bail, and so we needed some help." And went out there, and the Army had a team physician, but I was pretty much helping out everybody else there, and we actually had a significant spinal cord injury that kind of happened, or suspected spinal cord injury, and I took the lead on that. And anyways, just the word got back to USA Wrestling, and it wasn't long after that event that I got asked to come on board as one of the national governing body kind of physicians for USA Wrestling. So that was 13 years ago. With USA Judo, when I did my DO and my master's over at the UNT Health Science Center, one of the people on my master's committee was a senior level judo competitor. And when I came back and started, I taught over at the medical school for 6 years. And so when I came back, she was like, "Hey, do you ever cover judo?" And I was like, "Yeah, I covered some during, fellowship." And she's like, "Do you know how to like put joints back in if, there's dislocations and stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, I put shoulders and fingers and stuff like that back in." Little did I know how many I would be putting back in with judo, like so many with judo. But anyway, she's like, "You want to come and start covering some judo events?" And so I started covering some judo events, and they liked me. And then I got invited out to cover some USA Judo events, and they liked me for that. And that's where I kind of became, official with Team USA with judo with that.
That's awesome. What are you better at? Are you better at being a doctor, or are you better at creating relationships? Because it sounds like you're pretty damn good at creating relationships.
That's a good question. It's like, I mean, and what's funny is like, as we kind of get
I say
older,
it tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
You are a fine doctor, I imagine.
Yeah.
I would have referred a couple people to you if you were shit.
Yeah. If I, it's like, I haven't done a Myers-Briggs analysis on myself in a long time, but it's like, I mean, coming out of residency and fellowship, I was so ridiculously like extroverted and everything like that. And then maybe I've gotten, I'm definitely not an introvert, but I've definitely shifted a little bit more towards the I on that, as the years have kind of gone. So maybe I'm not as outgoing initially or whatever, as far as, making those partnerships and going to like a marketing event where I'm like, "Hey, let me get in front of you and talk to everybody." I just kind of like talking to my people that I know already. So it's like maybe I started out more of that person making great connections, and I focused more of my energy on just becoming the great doctor now. And but I would say that my biggest priority is being a great family man, being a great husband and father. That's absolutely my priority in life.
I'm going to go a little off topic here. Again, we covered the general lay of the land here, but I'd like you to talk to that, because I mean, being a doctor, having a private practice, but also having a family, and again, just with with this, like all the stuff we read through here, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you set your family? Sounds like a really ignorant question. How do you set your family as your priority when you have so many other people that also require so much of your time and expertise?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing, and some of the people that I consider to be mentors or people that I really admired and looked up to professionally, as I kind of got to know them more on that professional and personal kind of level, I realized that some of them were did all these accomplishments professionally, but then their home lives were just disasters. They they had kids that they never had a chance to have kids, or they just never their kids never saw them, or they were distanced or from them. And I always just said that family was going to be a priority to me. As I kind of got started, my ex-wife and I just to get kind of personal, our second child that we had a fatal condition and wasn't supposed to make it through the pregnancy. And then it was a miracle birth. And then she lived 103 days and we went home on hospice. This all happened while I was in residency.
Oh my.
And my oldest, who's 18 now, she was 3 at the time. So just, it was a very traumatic kind of thing that we went through. And unfortunately, just, our marriage wasn't able to kind of survive that. And as the marriage kind of started falling apart as I was working, professionally here, I was able to really envelop myself in my work. And so I was right off the bat coming out of fellowship, I was just accomplishment, doing all these great things to kind of pad that CV. But I felt myself kind of distancing myself from my family. And then I kind of got thrown into the situation where I needed to take, primary full custody of my oldest child. And that's where I really realized that I wasn't, even though I always said family was going to be that priority, I wasn't putting family as that priority. And it was, it was a good thing that happened from a bad situation where it changed my priorities, or it made me understand how to change my priorities, how to focus on my family. And I've been extremely family centric since then. But it's been, that has offered many challenges when you're an employed physician, and you're in the system of how healthcare is now. It's extremely daunting and time consuming and mentally consuming. And so it can definitely wear you out, and it can mean that you have very little to offer your family when you do come home to them. And so that was, kind of doing a segue into, talking about where I am now. But these were all things where I realized I need to be able to find a better way to have autonomy on how I can be around my family. And that's where I was like, I need to do my own kind of thing.
What do you do personally, if you will? So just to give you kind of a frame of reference, because I've been in a similar spot in that, and I'm sure you can attest to this, like you get a call or a message, hey, I need you, like from a patient or something like that. And it's a Saturday. And I'll tell you right now, life or death right now, I'll answer it, but hey, I threw my back out. I'm like, I'm sorry, bro, you got to wait till Monday. I'll do that now. In the past, I wouldn't have done it. Sorry, honey, just watch them. I'll be back.
Sure.
As soon as I can. I get what? Yeah, just what I understand what made you make the decision, but how do you, maybe this is a better way to put, how do you live that decision on a day-to-day or a week-to-week thing, in that, family does come first? Or maybe even better yet, how do you say no? Shoot, maybe that's the question. Sure. How do you say no to other people?
I think that's an excellent question. And I think it comes with some experience too. It's like, if you hadn't gotten, I did so many things at the beginning, so much different coverage. And, I was also a fellowship director for a primary care sports medicine fellowship. And so I was trying to create opportunities for my sports medicine fellows. And so I, was further broadening out what I covered. It's like we were doing boxing, we were doing this, we were doing that. We did all sorts of different kind of sports so that they had very well-rounded, curriculum and education. And I said that fellowship was my baby. But then at a certain point, you realize, there's things that you're doing professionally that you are calling your kids, and then you're kind of neglecting your actual kids. And so that's where you have to and we also like to say, it's like, like if we're treating a patient, we say, it's like, it's like, what would you do if this was your family member? It's like, how would you treat them like family? And then but then you have to kind of spin it around. You say, am I treating my family as family? Am I, it's like, I'm going out of my way to come in on Saturday to see this patient. Well, what am I missing out on with my family as I'm doing that? And so did I just prioritize somebody else over that? And granted, I think it depends. If you're a trauma surgeon and it's life or death or something like that, I think, it's like, but it's like, I mean, with what we do, there are things that stink that are definitely urgencies, but I would say that the emergencies are far and fewer in between, where we need to kind of drop what we're doing with our family. Now, granted, if we don't have anything else that's going on and it's not too much of an inconvenience, sure,
Right.
come on in, it's like, and that's where I live, 5 minutes away from where I work. And so that's not the end of the world for me. But at the same time, if it means that I'm going to be missing out on an opportunity, then yes, that's where, it's like, I can say, no, I'm sorry. And I have learned to say no from a sports medicine kind of standpoint, because I pretty much offered volunteer services for so many different things, covering Olympics, covering wrestling, judo, all these kind of things. Did I get paid anything for that? No. It's like,
People don't realize that.
Yeah.
Like that a lot of the medical coverage is pro bono, for free. Like we want to be in the arena. We want to be, this is maybe more speak for myself, I'm in the arena, or just, associated with the team, or just around the guys, but it's cashless.
Yeah. I mean, they cover, depending on what you did, like, I mean, they'll cover your travel and your, your room and board kind of thing.
A little per diem, but like,
sometimes a per diem, definitely not all the time a per diem, but very much it was. And then you're taking part-time off, or paid time off, whatever, to be able to do that. But when you work for yourself, there's no there's no PTO.
Nope.
It's just TO.
Right.
And so, it's like, so like this year, for example, we have the Olympics happening, and I've covered pretty much everything nobly with USA Wrestling other than the Olympics. And so the Olympics is that one, kind of thing that I have been reaching for professionally that I would like to cover. There's a dozen of us or so that are team physicians for USA Wrestling in the country. Is my name in that? I would certainly hope so, but I was not selected for it. And I don't know who was selected, for the game. So I'll kind of find out when that happens, but, had that happened this year, it's like, I mean, when getting ready for like the Pan American Olympic Games, working with any kind of Olympic event, it's truly another job. There's meetings, there's webinars, there's, videos that you have to watch. There's so much preparatory kind of things that you have to do to get ready for that. And then you're at the event for, 2-3 weeks, Olympics, probably 3 weeks. And so all time that you're out. And so it's like, you could use that to help market to your practice or whatever. But, it's like at the same time, that's a lot of, so it was kind of a blessing in disguise, right now that I didn't get selected for the Olympics, because that would have been a huge financial hit for me and my family. Had that kind of happened. And also just the timing of it this year, it's like right when my oldest is going to be going away to college. So I'm going to be an emotional wreck with that. And so,
no, you're not wrong in any way, shape, or form. Like, you're right, there's no PTO. It's just TO. And not only that, like it's almost double time, because not only is the office not making money, but then you're spending money while you're not at the office. So all this stuff going on, like all of the office, all the patients you have, the staff you have, and then obviously family life, and then the other little accoutrement, if you will, of just, pet projects and interests that kind of supplement it, kind of don't. Like it's a fun, let's just say at the very least, a change of patient to base. How do you stay on top of your game with all that going on, but also how do you decompress? How do you get away from all of that? Or do you need to?
No, I mean, absolutely. You need to be able to get away from it. It's like you need to be able to just kind of rest and relax your brain and find a way to kind of, let things just so that you can just, you need to, the brain needs, we got to sleep, we've got to recharge. We need all that. we need R&R. It's like, if you take a vacation, are you truly taking a vacation, or are you just bringing your work with you to a different location, a different venue? And so, when I go home, like, one thing I saw that was good about my dad was that whenever my dad came home, he was just dad. He wasn't, he wasn't Dr. Clearfield. He wasn't, and it was always funny because we would go to these work functions, and we had all these, his colleagues and his, medical students and residents come up and talk about what an amazing physician he is. And we're like, what, this guy? It's like the guy that fell asleep on the couch, and so I remember that, though. And so it's like, when I go home, I try to turn off the doctor thing, and I just try to be dad at home, and husband at home, and family man at home, and just try to make sure that I'm trying to get away from that medical aspect. At the same time, as far as keeping up with things, I mean, it's like, I say, it's like, when you feel like you know everything, that's where you need to hang the stethoscope up. That's where you need to retire, because there's always something new to learn. And that's what's really fun about my field, is that there's so many different things that we can kind of learn. It's like anatomy is anatomy, but as far as studying the anatomy, as far as understanding it, as far as understanding different variants of anatomy and how different, not every patient's body reads the book. It's
oh shit, I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, there's so many different things to learn about normal and abnormal, anatomy, pathology, and why people are coming in hurting, and what we can do to be able to help them, and how we can go about doing that. And so, we write case reports up all the time of, like, maybe it's a common condition, but a very unique approach, or maybe there was an approach for that. And so we see people that, have sometimes seen, like, several other kind of physicians, or, it's like, I had one patient that literally, I was like their 16th opinion, and, just had to really sit, listen, talk to them. And I was able to figure out what was kind of going on with them. And they're like, why couldn't these other people figure that out? And it's like, I read, I study, but also I listen, and I've given myself an opportunity in a setting. I have a practice setting where I have time to listen too. Cause sometimes it's not the physician's fault that they don't spend enough time with you. It's the system that they're in that doesn't allow them to be able to do that, because they have to see, 5 patients an hour in order to be able to, just be able to be supported, be able to be paid. And so but I don't even know if I got away from your question, but
no, if you did, I still like what you said. Right. I'm going to just kind of slide off on one final thing here. What are you reading? What are you listening to? What keeps you inspired?
When I first started my company, Motion is Medicine, I was listening to.
Oh God, I don't know if anyone ever said that. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Motion is Medicine. It's right down the road. It's Davis Boulevard.
Yeah. No, it's fine. No, I started it 5.5 years ago, and so we've been going strong. And so I was listening to a lot of those kind of business-based kind of podcasts, and just try to how to kind of run a business, a medical practice, and then just other kind of like Gary Vee and just inspirational kind of things like that. Is that what I primarily listen to right now? I would say no. It's like, and how many medical things I listen to, like, I guess as I was driving over here, I was listening to Peter Attia's The Drive podcast.
Okay, heard of it.
Which is a great medical podcast, and there's some topics I really enjoy kind of honing in on. But I would say usually I just try to be more just entertained, and I don't listen to music really that much anymore. I listen to podcasts. That's where I've kind of shaped myself. And so, like, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, the Smart List podcast, How Did This Get Made? Just things like that are just fun. And while I'm having fun, that's where I have other ideas about just how I can keep things more fun at work. And then just, one thing I can think of is, like, somebody like Conan O'Brien, I look at as an individual that is, not just a very funny and accomplished professional, but he's just an amazing person. It's like, if you really look into who he is, he's been a family man. He's been, he's become very famous, very smart person, but very humble, very giving to his staff. Like, nobody has anything bad that they can say about the man. And so it's like, he's really become a very accomplished businessman, if you want to call it from that end, just for what he's done professionally. But, when he leaves this earth, people are going to remember him as just this amazing person. Yeah. And so that's, things like that I like to listen to, just because it's like, it's inspiring on, who would I like to try to keep making sure that I can be that kind of person. I'm not becoming so just kind of, I'm not losing my focus. I'm not shifting away from the compass of where I want to be directed towards.
It's still just kind of this. This sounds bad, and it's only because of being in healthcare, but just retaining some humanity, because sometimes, especially in the medical realm, I would imagine, like you get put off as cold, or you have the ability, not you, but just, it seems like that's one thing that a lot of people are looking for in healthcare providers, just somebody who listens, like you said. Like, I don't take a whole lot of patients, so I can spend time with my patients and figure out, so I can be the end of the line for the patient who doesn't have to go find doctor number 17, doctor number 16 figured it out. That's awesome.
I think most people that get into medicine is through altruistic tendencies. And then as we are put into practice and we're typically employed, most medical professionals are employed in some sort of sense. Are we employed by people that, our employers are not medical professionals. They tend to be business professionals. They tend to be executives, and they just try to find out how they can squeeze every little bit out of you and then the second that you're not producing, for them, they discard you and they get somebody new to, be able to kind of squeeze the juice out of. And so because of that, that's where you sometimes, some people just kind of lose that humanity as far as how they're going to be able to, treat people. They lose sight of that just because they're just trying to keep their heads above water, and they keep putting more weights on top of their head as they do that. And so that's where just people eventually drown. And so that's where, like I also have started a separate consulting service called Physicians Unchained, where I teach other medical professionals how to be able to kind of leave this system of, insurance-based medicine.
That's cool.
And start their own, practice kind of out of network from that, so that they can have the autonomy to be able to treat their patients how they see fit, and they can also have autonomy on how they run their life. And so they can kind of have what I have.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of burnout, there's a lot of people that are just kind of leaving medicine right now, just because they do all this training. And that's where there's also a lot of depression, anxiety, suicidality, these kind of things in healthcare, because you say, I want to be a doctor. I want to help people. And you go through all this training, and some of the training kind of sucks, but there's this light at the end of the tunnel. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to help people. And then you get to the end of the tunnel, and then they're like, well, okay, we're going to plug you into this system. And it's like,
and then there's some administrator there.
Yeah. And then you're like, this isn't too bright at the end of this tunnel right here. And then, it's like you keep kind of putting your head down and barreling forward and hoping that you're going to be where that light was supposed to be. And the system is just not set up to do that. It's just becoming darker and darker to that individual. And at the same time, they feel indebted to, well, I, did all this training, so I have to kind of do this. I'm in all this medical debt, so I have to pay this off. And then also a lot of times, the hospitals and the employers purposely try to make sure that they make it lucrative for you coming out of your training, so that they, people, they buy the house, they buy the car, they start kind of doing these things to create the lifestyle that there's no way that they can support that anymore. Also, if they left.
The golden handcuffs.
And so,
as they call them.
And so, but there is a means of being able to try to leave, without, so it's like you can still practice healthcare, and you can do it the way that, truly healthcare, not just disease care or not just number care.
Yeah.
That the system really kind of has. You can make it about you. You can make it about the patient sitting right across from you. And so that's kind of what my consulting service is about.
Correct me if I'm wrong, those patients are fun to see. Those patients are fun to help. The ones that the ones that chose you, the ones that want to be people want help, obviously, but there's a certain type of patient when you can feel like, hey, like, I want you to help me. Those are fun people to help. Like they're choosing to be there. They're not forced to be there. And something tells me it's the exact same way, because it can be flipped around on the doctor who's choosing to be there and help that patient, as opposed to somebody who feels like they have those golden handcuffs on. I did not know about the consulting thing. That's awesome. So this is a wonderful little segue into the last part here. Where can people find you? Dr. Daniel Clearfield, Motion is Medicine. Make sure I say it this time. Where can people find you?
So we're like what, a mile,
Give or take, yeah.
a mile, 2 miles down the street from you over here. So we're over in North Richland Hills, Texas. So it's in the DFW kind of metroplex area. We're just 2 miles down the road on Davis over here, and 7500 Davis Boulevard, Suite 200. Our website is Motion is Medicine DFW, as in DallasFortWorth.com. Go to the website, check us out. Our handle for our social media is at Motion is Med. And so try to, put some entertainment on there, but also some good information about just some of the things that are kind of going on in medicine, on procedures that we can do, conditions that we're able to help and treat. So try to be active on our social media. I've definitely had to learn that. That's, it's like when I started
The hat they didn't teach you had to wear in school.
it's like, when I started this out, and my wife's my practice manager, we had to take a Instagram class from a TCU kid.
That's awesome. I didn't know that
when we started out. Yeah, just because it's like, we're like, how to, I don't know how to do Instagram. I don't, it's like I'm 45. It's like, we do Facebook, and even then I don't know how to really utilize Facebook. And so I've had to do a lot of self-teaching, some other classes, a lot of stuff and could we be doing stuff better? Yeah, we could be doing stuff better, but I think we're doing pretty darn well with it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time today. I really do. Guys, like I said, check him out. He's right down the road, easily accessible from both 820, 183, and 114, just right up and down the road here. Yeah. Dr. Clearfield, Motion is Medicine. As I'm not kidding you guys. You guys will learn here more by accident than elsewhere by design. So again, thank you for listening and or watching another episode of Fueled by Spite. Like, share, follow. That's Instagram lingo. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Thanks.